Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I decided to go ahead and make a shorter video for today, just a simple book talk about Don't Forget the Girl by Rebecca McKanna. Now this book is pretty much outside my usual reading sphere, as it is not fantasy, nor science fiction, nor speculative fiction of really any kind. But more importantly, the author of this book, Rebecca McKanna, is my grad school thesis professor and my good friend, so I really wanted to support her, even though this book's been out for like 10 months already. Launching right into it then, the basis for this book is really a reaction to the true crime genre, both for and against it. On one hand, true crime can bring to light things that we didn't know about as far as various crimes that have been committed throughout American history. On the other hand though, true crime tends to center the killers as the main characters, so to speak, of these stories, rather than focusing on the victims themselves. Now, I'm not a true crime consumer of any kind. I frankly don't care to learn about serial killers and their lives, and I'd rather focus on the victims, which is where this book comes into play and why I really like it, because it helped me kind of solidify why I don't particularly care for the true crime genre, and actually why I find it really confusing that so many people seem to be really hung up on serial killers these days. Don't Forget the Girl then takes place across two different timelines with three different characters. There's the past timeline of 2003 with the POV of Abby, and then there's the present timeline of 2015 with Chelsea and Bree. The premise of this book is that these three women were friends and freshmen together at University of Iowa. During their first semester of freshman year, Abby goes missing, and in the present of the storyline, Chelsea and Bree are completely disconnected and alienated from one another because of what happened back in 2003. The reason the story picks up in the present timeline of 2015 is because the serial killer, John Allen Blue, who again is fictional, is finally going on to death row, and he has 25 days until his execution. And in the context of this book, John Allen Blue obviously is kind of a glamorous serial killer, and so people know about him. He's got fanboys and fangirls, and also plenty of people who want to see him die. And it's at this point that both Bree and Chelsea individually realize that they want to get Abby's story out there. They had tried to do that when they were younger, when they were teenagers, but the grief was too strong, they were too young, they couldn't really comprehend everything that was going on, and it didn't really go anywhere. Then when John Allen Blue committed more glamorous crimes, Abby's disappearance went kind of unnoticed, and they never got any closure. And so in the present timeline, Bree and Chelsea both work toward getting some kind of closure, both for themselves and for the general public and for Abby's story. And that whole plot line goes with what the actual tagline is, which is that we never remember the dead girls, we never forget the killers. And it really should be the opposite way. Now, this is not an indictment of anybody who enjoys true crime. We all have different interests and want to learn about different things. However, as an outside observer of the genre, really the only thing I hear in the advertisements for podcasts or shows is about the killer. The killer is always centered in the story, and I'm much more interested in the people who were impacted by the killer. I want to know who these people were that had their lives taken away, and I also want to know how their friends and family and communities were impacted by their disappearance. And that's really where this whole book is going. Bree and Chelsea managed to reconcile and kind of come back together throughout the book, even though they are still definitely broken up in their own ways about everything that occurred. Now, amongst the external plotline there with the serial killer, there's also a lot of internal stuff going on with these characters. Chelsea and Abby had a romantic relationship that they kept hidden, and so during their freshman year, while they were trying to figure out how to be a couple, whether they want that to be public or private, Bree was kind of then the third wheel, not knowing this big secret with her two friends. Naturally then, when it eventually came out that Abby and Chelsea were together, Bree was a little upset because Bree was actually a pretty understanding friend and would have been fine with it. On one hand then, you have Bree's emotions where she feels left out from these two friends, and she thought that they trusted her and that they were all close together. On the other hand, taking in the context of 2003 America, same-sex relationships, especially for teens, might not have been very public knowledge at the time because you couldn't trust or know who was going to accept you or who was going to judge you. Buddy, the cord, we can't keep doing this. And then you couple that with just the complexity and perplexity of dating in your late teens and trying to figure out who you are as a person. That's kind of the whole point of going to college. And of course, the two girls had different opinions. Chelsea wanted to be public with it. Abby did not. Abby came from a strict household. Chelsea's household was a little bit more open. So naturally you have a lot of conflict emotionally from these three girls, and that's really what drives the whole story, is these internal character conflicts and how they manifest both in the past and the present timelines. Boop, 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 boop. Now, I really like the story. I like seeing these themes about budding sexuality, the romantic tension juxtaposed with the friendship tension, and kind of seeing where it all went to a head in both the past timeline and the present timeline. My one complaint is that it is written in second person present tense in the 2003 Abby timeline, and then third person present tense in the Bree and Chelsea POVs in the present timeline. And the only reason I say that's a complaint is because that's just not my preferred genre or tense style. And in epic fantasy, we typically trend toward third person limited past tense. So it was just an adjustment, but the story is still really good and I highly recommend it, particularly if you're like me and you don't understand the obsession and explosion of the true crime genre. Overall, it was a great book. I highly recommend it. I'm obviously very biased, but I think Rebecca is a great writer and a great friend, and I hope that she gets a lot of success and notoriety from this book and all the other projects that she's working on in the future. And if anyone's interested, maybe I can have her on sometime and we can talk about the writing process. So yeah, great book overall. Highly recommend it. McKanna does a great job of creating and sustaining tension throughout with kind of a thriller-esque pace, even though most of the drama and the emotions are all internal to the characters. That's all for today. As always, thanks for stopping by. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and comment if you would like to engage with me and the channel and ask some questions about Don't Forget the Girl and other writing related things. As always, I hope that you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you here in the next video.